Well, they're enjoying.
Welcome, bienvenue, the big bad builders. Yes, the justice is coming. Unfortunately, not right on time, because apparently it gets blocked at every turn. But anyway, more of that later. Welcome, one and all, to another Cladding Matters. Cladding Matters is all about ensuring that we raise and point the spotlight on the fact that people are not helping get better from the illness that was dealt them. It's a sad state of affairs, but we have to acknowledge it. What I would say is that Cladding Matters, make sure the logo popped up this time, is all about talking together to try and support each other. And of course, the person who started this all off is Mr. Hamish McLay, and I'm, as usual, throwing him under the bus.
I think the challenge is everybody outside those that can make decisions and do things are standing together, or at least some of them are. We have a situation, and I think it's quite apt, the title we have this week, not that they usually are, but constructive collusions. There's something going on which is somehow, and is this a weakness in society? I don't know, where we're actually supporting. We call them big bad builders for a good reason, I guess. But if you like, here we have the big corporate bodies, the ones that make all the money, and basically everybody within this sort of collusion that's going on, they're going down that route. These are the important guys because they're making the profit. And hang on, what about the guys that live in a property that has a danger of catching fire? That has been devalued, that the cost of living in that place has actually sort of gone up. And it wouldn't be so bad, but we've had this week alone, we would hope, I mean, Gareth spoke very nicely about, having an illness that we can't get rid of. This is an illness that is recoverable from. We should not be going down the sort of dire routes of this is it. And it's getting progressively worse. But each week we see different stories cropping up. And this week they're contradicting what could actually sort of be happening. People who could influence what's going on could be doing it. But we're not getting any nearer. We're not getting any nearer for Wendy to enable sort of first-time buyers to sort of move into some of these places. And we're not making it any easier for Zahrah to be able to sort of remove the risk and say it's perfectly all right, you'll be okay, move in that one.
Yeah, I think to preserve Wendy from punching holes in walls and Zahrah's blood pressure from going any higher, I think this needs to be resolved. I'm sorry, Steve. Tell us everything.
Well, firstly, I think it's time to congratulate Gareth, who have just received another 5 stars from the Home Builders Federation for quality, and very, very happy customers. So well done to Barrett. And now we'll see just how, we'll see just how satisfied their customers are at Royal Artillery Quays. Well, it's been an
I think the next thing on Trustpilot is we're going to get the Moors Murderers getting a 5-star review. What's next?
Well, what's next is what's coming, and unfortunately, I'm trying to not say this is protect the builders at all costs because I don't want to be accused of conspiracy theories and all the rest of it. But I think it's protect the builders at all costs, and I'll tell you why.
Hang on, Steve. Wait a second. Look, anybody listening, I am saying it appears to be protect the builders. Oh, don't look at Steve. It's me. I'm saying it. It's protect the builders at all costs. Now, what are we going to do about it, Steve?
Well, the council aren't going to do very much about it at the moment. So firstly, we had a full council meeting on Wednesday at Greenwich Council, and this was a really important opportunity for me as the residents' chair representing 1,000 people in 8 blocks of flats, where one of them has been condemned for unsafe, unlawful compartmentation on the fire shaft. So it means
should be a no-brainer, right? Should be a no-brainer.
Yeah. I was a bit surprised, given that it's very simple stuff. There's fire doors at the bottom of each shaft on the one they've condemned, why the other 7 who were also missing the fire doors at the bottom of each shaft haven't actually been issued with a notice. And I wanted to put an answer to the council on Wednesday. Where are the other 7? And crucially, and this is the wording I use, will the council push the LFB, London Fire Brigade, to reassess the other 7 buildings?
Seems fair.
And I want the council to use their power to push the fire brigade, because it's unacceptable that we're living in danger here. It's not just about getting this stuff done. Every night is another night where this could go up. And, I always say, if the residents of Grenfell could have got the fire safety stuff listened to by the local council and acted upon, maybe they would still be here, those 72 tragic.
Quite right.
We're in the same situation. We have been proved right with our technical evidence that these fire defects are unlawful, and the fire brigade have taken them seriously, but only on one of the 8 buildings. And so the question is, why are the fire brigade not doing all of them? And then you go back to the meeting 2 weeks ago, and Barrett didn't even turn up. So, you would have thought they're responsible for the remediation program at Royal Artillery Quays. They have been found out by residents that have done their own technical investigation over 3 years, and have been found to be wanting in the lawful development category. And they couldn't be bothered to come after the fire brigade have issued the notice to explain themselves and to reassure residents who are desperately worried about their safety what they're going to do about it. They didn't have the decency to turn up. And this is the Barrett Redrow that has got a 5-star award. Well, I can assure you, those 5 stars didn't come from anyone at Royal Artillery Quays.
No, I think they came out of Monopoly boxes. I don't think anybody's taking any real notice of them. But if they are, my goodness, on what basis are they called a master builder?
Well, they've been given that protection, I would say, by the government, who are aware of their 35% life safety critical defect rate in blocks of flats under the developer contract. They're aware of Royal Artillery Quays because we've made the department aware, and I've had meetings with them. They're aware because the BBC News has clearly shown all the defects, and so has the Sunday Times. They are basically being protected. And then if we go to PAS, which we covered in detail last week, so I won't dive into too much, but PAS is another way of protecting them because they've signed the developer contract, many of these builders, including Barrett, for to fix all the buildings that they've built for the last 30 years in the past. However, they've watered down the standard, so it ignores the building defects that this fire brigade have found on our fire stairs. It ignores it. So it says, we don't care if the building's illegal at the time of construction. We're going to ignore that. We're going to park that over there, and we're just going to do a remediation on the bits that are in scope, which are watered down bits that allow combustible material to remain. And the argument for that, I was just reading about it actually, and the argument for it was to save residents from having disproportionate costs of remediation where fire engineers view it's not required. Well, those costs still remain. It's going to be paid for by the insurance premiums we're paying. We don't get out of this. So this proportionate approach is only proportionate to the costs the builders pay for remediation and the Treasury. And those conflicts of interest are basically playing out in real time at Royal Artillery Quays and around the 5.6 million flats around the country.
Well, that's totally rubbish. I'm sorry, Zahrah. Is there any sanity to this insanity?
Not that I can see. You spend all your time trying to convince people not to go down the route of buying flats. And I had an inquiry from someone else basically saying, oh, but it's got Building Safety Act protections. And I'm like going, that's not guaranteed. Look at the practical aspects in terms of how you're going to get in and out of the building. And also, you've got no guarantee that nothing else is going to come out of the woodworks later on down the line. And there's no guarantee that the developers will come back and fix it. So, it's still all hanging in the air. I've had another gentleman who's in a flat that's not affected by the Building Safety Act, but is covered in cladding. And he's basically saying he cannot get any answers out of his landlord as to when and, how his building is going to be remediated. He can't sell until he's got answers.
Oh, good Lord. Well, what's to do? Wendy, your first-time buyers must be frustrated as hell.
They are frustrated when they have managed to find a place that they have fallen in love with and they've put in an offer only to discover that there are warts under the surface. So that's really frustrating. And I think a lot of first-time buyers are being duped into looking at these flats because people are trying to sell them off cheaply so that they can get rid of the problem themselves. And an attractive, cheap in comparison flat compared to everything else in the area is clearly going to attract first-time buyers who don't necessarily know and understand the full extent of the problems and the challenges and the noose around their neck that they're going to be buying into if they bought one of these flats. It's really concerning.
Well, it just seems to me be absurd. Hamish, surely this cannot continue.
Well, sadly, there's nothing to suggest it's not going to continue. With the amount of, we say collusion, I can't understand, I can't feel somehow that they're acting totally independently of each other, all to come up with the same answers.
Oh, it's a big coincidence. That's what it is.
There's no such thing as coincidence. It's happening at the same time. They're all saying exactly the same thing. They've all written the same books, the same rules. And I think, as Steve's pointed out, the way in which it was put together was to cover themselves financially. Oh, I think we can afford this, without looking too deep into it. I think this is a sad thing too, because by virtue of what is happening, it puts into danger any flat anywhere. Because both Wendy and Zahrah sort of they haven't intimated, they've sort of stated, how can Zahrah take the risk out of something, or in fact check the full risk of it, if details aren't available? The same with Wendy. If somebody is just trying to work with somebody that's found somewhere, appropriate price, they've got, I don't know, if they can get the mortgage on some of these things. But it wasn't just that. I don't think it was just what the council are doing, because they have powers to enact and actually get something to happen. It wasn't just, but there were some strange things where they're not. I don't know if Zahrah was there, but you were there, Steve, in the House of Lords. Weren't there some strange mutterings in the House of Lords this week as well?
Well, so I sent some questions for Baroness Pinnock to ask on PAS 9980, actually, and she did, and she's put some written questions down. It's basically, what are you going to do about it? Because the insurers don't trust the buildings are safe in these PAS remediations. And if we go back to the Public Accounts Committee, which was last week, they say very explicitly, when is the government going to produce proposals to ensure that all fire safety defects, irrespective of whether they are related to cladding issues, are properly addressed? So the MPs on that committee don't think the government are on top of this. And, they want to speed up remediations. Well, this PAS is slowing remediations down, because you get to a wretched argument with a fire engineer that wants to leave this panel on that's highly combustible without any fire test evidence. They don't want to leave that one on, but this one over there, they're going to leave one. You have a massive argument for years. If they just banned all the combustible material of all buildings above 18 meters in line with current building regulations, the whole thing would be sped up. Building safety regulator wouldn't be caught in the middle of this. They're going to just approve the remediations, because they're going to take it off. If the builders don't take it off, they'll have to take it off again, do it all again, because they're not doing their job properly. Building control know what to sign off. Let's do that. that will solve the problem. And we go further in that. I mean, we've actually got some recommendations because we're starting to prepare for the Planning and Infrastructure Bill now, which is going through Parliament. And we will be doing some amendments in the House of Lords. But our recommendations are these, and for any viewers watching, this is potentially a new way of solving the problem. So we want the Building Safety Act amended to provide protection to leaseholders from the costs of remediating all cladding and non-cladding building safety defects. That's not life safety critical under the building remediation contracts that the builders have signed. That's full building risk defined in the Building Safety Act defects. That's everything, right? The developer's contract is then amended to cover all cladding and non-cladding building defects, not just life safety critical defects. So that will solve the insurance problem. Combustible materials should be removed off all 80-meter plus buildings. That would be simple. That solves everything. And interestingly, combustible materials have only been allowed for 6 years ever in the UK's history on tall buildings between 2000 and 2006. It's nuts. You know, back in 1992, they didn't dare put all this stuff on. And then between 2000 and 2006, they thought, oh, yeah, let's stick a load of flammable stuff on the buildings. And then after that, Grenfell, and then everything's taken off. So we're saying just flip and take it off. And then finally, we say remediation costs, because there's 1.7 million excluded people. There's also the partial remediations, and needs to be done properly. That's going to cost money. Shouldn't be the taxpayer, because a lot of people don't own their homes. This is largely a homeowner's problem. So we say increase the residential property developer tax from 4 to 8% in the same way as the bank corporation surcharge did, and make it wide so we don't bankrupt tiny developers. We get the cladding manufacturers in with multi-million pounds coming in, and we get that money in. And because the levy is at different rates for different classes of business, you can not whack the developers who have already paid loads in the contracts. You can, whack them less than the cladding manufacturers who've largely got away with it, and any other players keep that. So we can cover the whole building safety crisis. Those are recommendations. You'll see more of that in the Lords and potentially the Commons as well. But there's good news to this. We're on the right side of this. I was at the Lib Dem conference over the weekend as well. I talked to the deputy leader, Daisy Cooper, and Dr. Al Pinkerton, both Lib Dem that are basically pushing this agenda. So it's not going anywhere. The government will not be let off the hook. And if you're Barrett,
it begs a question, does it not? Why can't they do the job properly in the first place? And as Zahrah said to me, time and money, people's lives are on hold.
The government, the thing we need to tap into here with our campaign is they want to speed this up, right? And that makes sense if it's done properly, because there's risk here. Every night is a risk, huge risk. And we want to tap into that, and we say, yes, but you're going to need to make some changes to speed up the remediation so they're done properly. You can't just speed them up, because ultimately what they want to do is pressure the building safety regulator just to sign off all this stuff, look the other way, ignore the building illegal construction, and you can see what's happening. And the fire brigade, the council, in our case, and other players, freeholders, building owners, they've all been against me. My Rendell and Ritten, my managing agent, issued me a cease and desist to basically tell me to stop raising the dangerous stuff. And then a few months later, the enforcement notice came out. So maybe I was right, and maybe I should be mentioning the dangerous unlawful construction, and you should have not issued me a cease and desist. So if you're looking at having Rendell and Ritten as your managing agent, think again, because that's how they treat building safety.
Hamish, infamy, they've all got an infamy. Yeah. Can you please round it off for us today and take us home?
Well, I just don't see a way out of it at the moment unless those minds are changed, because as both Wendy, who's very much involved with getting people onto their ladder, with Zahrah, who's trying to process and get people in there through the legal sort of side of things, that is holding up what's going on. And when we actually look at numbers of properties, they're growing. They're growing week by week, month by month. They're finding more and more buildings that haven't actually been fully inspected yet, because people are starting to doubt it. And this is what's bringing out of the woodwork some of these signatures that we've actually had applied to, say, a particular standard, buildings up to a particular standard, and they haven't even checked it. They've sat the other side of the world and signed it. So at the moment, we're in stall situation, and it is not speeding anything up. And 2027 is about 8 months closer now than it was when the British government actually got in place, and they maintain the whole thing. The buildings, everything's going to be resolved, apparently, including the remediation, from what they said, by 2027. You absolutely jest. They won't be able to make their minds up. They will not.
There was an expression from my youth which went something like this: Jimmy Hill. Basically, I don't believe it. I don't, by the evidence as displayed, unlikely. And I think that what people need in that department is a checkup from the neck up. Anyway, I'm going to round this all up. Thank you very much for spending time with us today. I'm sorry it wasn't more positive, but at least you can see that we've got at least a few people, as you can see them here, still rattling sabers and trying to make things move ahead. To Steve Day, thank you so much for your time from the buildingsafetyscheme.org. Please do take a look at it. Hamish McLay of Search Convey, our Lord and Master who set this in place. Zahrah Aullybocus, next to law, who working quite closely with the House Lords, and Wendy Gibson, the First Time Buyers Club, fighting the good fight on behalf of those first time buyers. And for me, with the many purple hats, I wish you all a marvelous weekend. Try and keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars and look after that mental health. Until next week, goodbye.
There's a tale about some folks with hammers and some nails. They'll promise you the moon, but their word always fails.